Hello, everyone. My name is Kristen Zork-West. I am the Director of Marketing for Executive Education here at the Yale School of Management. And this is our application FAQ webinar for the Yale Global Executive Leadership Program. On the call with me today is Joanne Legler, our Senior Director of Learning Partnerships, as well as Jamie Willardson, our Registrar and Associate Director of Learning Operations. Joanne and Jamie are intimately familiar with our YGELP application and the application process, and they're here with you and with me today to share all of their insights and tips. Just a little bit more about their roles. Joanne is a wonderful advisor here in our department. She's often the first person prospective participants speak with when they learn about our programs, just including YGELP. And she helps them understand if they're a good fit and if our programs will help them achieve their goals, or at least work to meet their goals. Jamie helps our participants prepare to attend programs by sharing important logistical information, providing critical updates, and answering questions about attending the program. So, what are we going to do today? We're here to talk about YGELP. We're here to talk about the program overall. Then we'll move on to reviewing the application process and the timeline. Then we'll talk about the specific components of the application where you might have some questions about individual aspects of it. Then we'll talk about next steps in preparing your application, what happens after you submit your application. And then we will have some time reserved at the end for our final advice and a Q&A time for any outstanding questions we haven't answered along the way. So as we kick things off, just a few housekeeping items. We encourage you to use both the chat and the Q&A throughout the webinar. We'll be moderating both. We'll do our best to answer questions as they come in, as they come up. We do, as I mentioned, have time reserved at the end, just in case we don't get to them during our conversation, during the presentation. Next, this is a time for conversation. This is a time for discussion. We're here to answer your questions as much as we are here to share information. So please share your questions. I always like to say that if you have a question, someone else on the call very likely has a similar one in mind. So it's really great if you elevate it to us. We are recording this webinar and we will distribute the recording afterwards to all registrants, but we will not be distributing the slides. So those are my final housekeeping notes. I'm going to pass the mic now over to Joanne. Everyone, please welcome Joanne and Jamie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Kristen, and thank you everybody for being here today. It's so lovely to see you. Please do feel free, for those of you that came in a bit later, to put your questions either in the chat or the Q&A. We'll keep an eye on those throughout the time together today. And if we can answer your question live and in real time, we'll do so. We will leave some time toward the end for Q&A as well, but please don't be shy. Go ahead and put those questions in there at any time, and we'll get them answered for you before we leave each other today. So thank you again. Thanks to Kristen for hosting us, Jamie for joining us, and thank you all for being here with us today. As Kristen mentioned, we are going to start with an overview of the Yale Global Executive Leadership Program, otherwise known as YGELP. And just to be really clear, this is a great opportunity to learn more about YGELP at a really high level, the basics. For a deeper dive into the program, I really encourage you to hop onto our excellent website, download our brochure, check out other webinars that we've done in the past. Definitely meet with us on social media. Check out what Kristen and her team are doing there. And you can learn more about the program through other webinars that we'll be having at a later time this year. Today, instead, we are going to be talking about the application. That includes, as Kristen mentioned, the process, the individual components. We'll offer some suggestions for you to prepare, and like I said, give you some advice before we leave each other today. So as an overview for YGELP, it is a really wonderful, exciting, and very special program for us. I love YGELP. It's so fun to meet folks in the program while we're going through the application process. So as you might know, this is our C-level program for those that are designed to either have, who are already proven business leaders, or who might be on their way into that level of leadership within their organization. So not everyone is necessarily at that very highest level of leadership, but might be and probably should be preparing to be in a position of leadership responsibility in their organization. As such, we have found over the years that those with 20 years of experience or more have the most to offer to the program and the most to get back from the program. So we do have that somewhat flexible guideline of 20 years of work experience at a minimum. I think it's also important to know that the G in YGELP, global, is really important to us. It's very much our expectation and hope that the cohort will include those within the US and of course well outside the US, whose work and goals really provide representation for their organizations and for the cohort from around the world. So regardless of where you might be sitting, our hope and expectation is that global work is very much part of what you do on a pretty daily basis. Each YGELP cohort does bring in anywhere between about 25 to 40 participants per cohort. That can vary based on a number of factors, including what's going on in sort of the general ecosystem worldwide or the global markets. But our hope is that the cohort will be of a size that offers the diversity and background and experience that you're looking for, but really intimate enough to provide you with that tight-knit network of peers. And those are people who are not only going to become lifelong friends, we hope, but also become part of your personal board of advisors, people you can reach out to when you're dealing with a particularly thorny issue and need a safe space and a willing ear, somebody who knows exactly what you're going through, who can help kind of problem solve in the moment. So 25 to 40 is the sweet spot for us. At the end of this program, for those that complete, the cherry on top is an opportunity to join our alumni community. And that is a modified alumni status that allows you to, it's called affiliate status, be very much part of the Yale community, the SOM alumni community. You will be able to join us for, in your city, different Yale-oriented or SOM-oriented events, and to come back and join us at Yale SOM for reunions every 5 years. And the first one is 1 year out of the program completion. So we always look forward to seeing our YGELP alumni in person, on campus, or when we go to visit them around the world. So that is something that if you finish the program successfully, you get that status. The program delivery is what you probably would expect. This is an in-person, on-campus program at the Yale School of Management in New Haven, Connecticut. We have a lovely building that you'll be spending quite a bit of time in. In addition to our modules, and I'll go over those in a moment in person, we also meet monthly via Zoom. Our faculty director, Professor Sonnenfeld, gets together with the cohort to kind of just chit-chat, check in, celebrate any accomplishments, talk about any thorny issues that may have come up for our participants, and of course, talk about leadership and what's going on in the global ecosystem. So Jeff's got a really great bird's eye view into what's going on at that leadership level and would welcome discussion. Again, that global component in real time can be a really powerful opportunity. And it's always fun to see each other on a monthly basis in between the modules. Speaking of that, the dates are here. If you're here, you've probably already seen them on our website or perhaps in one of our emails. We will kick off the cohort with a virtual Zoom-oriented orientation on March 25th of next year. That's a great opportunity for us to get to know who's in the cohort and for the cohort members to meet both our faculty director and the staff. That's kind of the first day of the program, but more formally, Module 1, here are the dates, April 26th through May 8th. That's our first 2-week in-person on-campus module. Module 2 continues on in October, another 2-week in-person on-campus module, and then we finish the program with Module 3 in December for 1 week in-person and on-campus. And like I mentioned, we have monthly virtual meetings where we can connect with one another in between the modules. So this is truly a fully in-person and on-campus program, which allows us to bring in multiple speakers from across the university to teach you the wonderful content that we have to offer. Speaking of that, on our next slide, you'll see the curriculum pillars that for us sort of is the foundation and the building block of the YGELP program. For us, it makes perfect sense for us to really think about these three things, not only in isolation, but also how they connect to one another. Leadership in business and society, that perfectly mirrors what our mission is at the Yale School of Management, which is all about leaders in society, leaders in business and society. So the Yale School of Management mission is woven into the program really very much as part of this part of the content. We really want to elevate your capacity to drive organizational change and success, and really keeping in mind all relevant stakeholders. And thus you will take sessions like high performing teams, stakeholder capitalism. A big part of this pillar is also doing a lot of individual work. You'll do a lot of tool-oriented 360 type feedback, executive coaching, where you're learning more about your own leadership styles and motivations, where your opportunities for growth and success might be, and what your strengths are that you can continue to capitalize on. This pillar also includes sessions on corporate governance, board management, gender discrimination. The second pillar is that G. We keep saying there's a G, and it's really important to us. So our global perspectives pillar is about deepening your understanding of the global context of business to help overcome the challenges of operating in a really globalized world. In this case, we're talking about things like ethical leadership in a global community, strategies for organizational emergencies, global economy, macroeconomic trends, opportunities and risks in emerging markets. So it's really an exciting opportunity to not only be taught that, but also rely on your cohort mates to provide context for some of this content. And then finally, that executive toolkit, and this is meant to sharpen your business acumen. Obviously, your goal is to drive profitability, growth in your organization and your employees. And so here we're going to be talking about things like decision-making, creativity, value creation, talking about how to work with startups, who's your competition, digital transformation, negotiation, networking, all the things that we believe is key to the toolkit of a global leader. And then next, we're going to talk a little bit about the application. So again, there's that high-level overview of YGELP for you. And I really do encourage you to continue to follow us on social media, hop into our website, download our wonderful brochure, and dig in a little bit deeper. However, this is the admissions team, and so we really want to talk a bit more about the practical application components so that you can move forward with an application with confidence and know exactly what we're looking for and how to move forward successfully. Our application actually has two components to it, and the first one is a short form just to go ahead and verify your email address with us. Once we have that back, you'll receive a link that allows you to move forward into part 2 of the application. The application itself is extremely straightforward. We're not trying to trick you. It's certainly worth spending a good deal of time on, maybe an hour, maybe a little bit more, depending on what you have available to you now and what you might have to start from scratch. But we do hope you'll take the time to be thoughtful about it before hitting that submit button. That said, one of the things you'll want to dig out or potentially start over again is a resume. We do often hear from senior leaders that it's been a minute since they've done their resume. This is a perfect time to go ahead and either, like I said, dust it off or just go ahead and start from scratch. A resume should be more than a list of your accomplishments. Of course, we'd want to know about your education. We'd want to know about any certifications that you have, accomplishments that you're particularly proud of. But really for us, it's a 1 to 2 page accounting of your professional work experience. And certainly if you've got a 3 or 4 page resume at this point in your career, no problem. We're always excited to hear everything you have to tell us. But I would certainly pare it down, knowing that our job is just to get that big overview of your experience. And we do have other tools to learn a little bit more about you beyond the resume. One of those things is the essays. We have 3 essays as part of our application. Again, not designed to trick you and not designed to be particularly difficult, but really an opportunity for us to know what's going on in your head as you consider this as your next step in your own professional development. So our questions are simple. Tell us about your goals. What are your objectives? Why would you want to do this program? That's essay number 2. YGELP is unique, but we do know that there are wonderful programs out there all over the world in other locations and schools. Why is this one speaking to you? Specifically, What is it about YGELP that you think will help better prepare you for global leadership? So those two can go hand in hand quite a bit, and you'll have to work on deciding how to parse those out to tell your story. The last essay question is about you. It is a distinctive cohort. Everybody brings something to the table. What do you have? What's your unique contribution to this cohort? And what can others learn from you? So as much as we envision you sitting in a classroom and just taking in and sponging up all of this great content, we know you have something to offer too. Tell us more about that and let us get to know you in that way in essay number 3. Finally, there is an optional essay, and it truly is optional. I can't stress that enough. It's an opportunity to explain anything that might raise either a flag or make us question a little bit about something about your application. Always better to let us know than to have us guess. So the optional essay is an opportunity to explain any unexplained gaps in a work experience, promotions that you weren't able to talk about elsewhere, recognitions that didn't come up in your essays or resume. If there's anything else you'd like us to know, that's a short opportunity. And I hope that that helps you understand that it is truly optional and it's not an opportunity to repeat information that we can find elsewhere. Next is a professional reference. This is required. Number 1, of course, we want you to pick somebody who knows you really well. And number 2, you'd want to choose somebody who has the time to write you a positive professional reference. Don't worry too much about this part of it other than to give us the correct information, including email address for the person who you choose to be your professional reference. Once we have that information, we'll take it from there. That person will get a link. They'll be asked to fill out a short form, a couple of short answer questions. Again, we don't want this to be a burden on the person who's been asked. And so it's really not a particularly heavy lift. That said, you certainly want to give that person a heads up, and I'll talk more about that at the end of the webinar. Finally, if invited, once the application has been reviewed by the admissions team, you may be invited to interview. All interviews are via Zoom with either myself or with Jamie, perhaps somebody else on our team, and designed to last about 30 minutes. This is the opportunity we get to dig a little bit deeper into anything that you relayed to us in the application. So when you think about this in its totality, it's a really cool opportunity to think about your essays, your resume, and then your interview, and allow those opportunities to really pull together the story you want to tell about your candidacy for YGELP. So those are the components of our application. Last but not least from me, we want to talk a little bit about the opportunity to flow through the application process, or the process by which we do this. So number 1, you're going to go ahead and submit your application. Hit that button when you are ready. Secondly, if offered the opportunity, interviews would be the next step. Shortly after that, we will make final decisions and then notify you of that final admissions decision. And then after that, you will choose, I hope positively, to enroll in our program, and then go ahead and make that first non-refundable deposit, which is for $10,000. I did see a question about the cost of the program for the cohort in 2026. The total program fee is $65,000. We ask for a deposit right off the bat to hold your spot in the class, and that is non-refundable. Underneath these squiggly lines, you'll see the deadlines and sort of next steps. The application is open now. Sorry, Kristen, do you have a question?
Yep, actually, I wanted to pause before moving on to the next slide.
Yeah, let's do
because
it.
We did get some questions in, and I think
Great.
it would be great for you to answer them live.
I would love to.
Wonderful. Yep, this the application components bring up a lot of thoughts to listeners' minds and a lot of questions. So here's an excellent one about the interview. Is the interview in person, online? How is the interview conducted?
Great question. The interview is number 1 by invitation, but number 2 completely online. I don't think I've ever done an interview in person, and so this is not to be a burden. Absolutely, we'll set this up via Zoom. We will take care of all the details. You just have to pick a day and a time that works well with your schedule, and we'll take it from there. I promise this should be, I think, fun, but really interesting, and a great opportunity not only for us to get to know you, but for you to ask any questions you might have about the program.
Here's another one. How long would you estimate it takes to complete an application?
I really think if you've been thoughtful about this ahead of time, it probably shouldn't take more than a couple of hours, and that's probably on the high side. The reason I say that is because the form itself, it's while short and easy, it certainly can be time consuming. You know, we're asking for things like dates and your company and how many employees work there, and it might take a minute to sort of dig to find that information. I think if you've been thoughtful about it ahead of time, when you go to sit down to write the essays, hopefully they kind of come like that. And it's just a matter of formulating your thoughts, thinking about them holistically from essay one to essay three, and then, you know, looking over them with a fine tooth comb. I certainly don't mind if you take your essays in a Word doc or some other format and send it to a friend and say, hey, does this make sense? Am I repeating myself anywhere? So I think you probably could do it within an hour. I think, you know, if you take all of those extra steps to ensure that you're presenting yourself exactly the way you want to, it might take a little bit more time.
Thank you. Another question. Are there any previous academic degree prerequisites for admission?
No, we don't have any degree requirements. Again, I would say this is best suited for those with 20 plus years of work experience. Anyone is welcome to apply. We certainly have had folks in the program in the past with just shy of 20 years experience, and we've had people with many more years than 20 of work experience. So I would say we don't have any educational specific requirements. And the only sort of hard yet flexible requirement is that leadership level that you've achieved and or are on your way up into that highest level of leadership, and to make sure that you're hovering or have surpassed the 20-year mark. But no, there are no other requirements. Every other requirement is listed here, and it really relates to the application itself, not you as a candidate.
Thank you so much. So those are the only questions that specifically
Great,
relate to the application components right now.
great.
Uh,
Thanks for,
to-
for popping
Absolutely.
in.
And
Yep,
if we get some more in, I'll let you know.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So on to the next slide with the wavy lines. Underneath that, you will see our deadlines. So like I said, the application's open now, thanks in huge part to Jamie and my colleague Andrea, and it's ready to go. I would encourage you to open it. At the very least, check it out. See if it's something that you think you can manage over the next couple of months. We do encourage you to consider applying by our priority deadline for maximum consideration. This year, that deadline is September 26th. 2025. Wow, just aged myself. And so it's terrific if you can go ahead and just get familiar with the content and sort of the cadence of the application if you feel like you might apply this year. The class will fill as we enroll admitted candidates. That said, for those that apply by September 26th, we will do our best to read applications quickly, get those interviews quickly, and we can then guarantee you that we will commit to letting you know about a final admissions decision by early to mid-December 2025. The reason that date not only is important but makes sense for us is, as you know, as a university, we do tend to have a pretty long winter break. On your end, this gives you the opportunity to know well ahead of time if you've been admitted to the program, and then if you choose to join us, it'll give you lots of time to prepare to be out of the office in 2026, to get your houses in order, whether they be professional, personal, your volunteer stuff, your travel, any family obligations you might have. Before saying yes to us, make sure your calendar is clear. This gives you the time to ask for help from work, whether it be financial or just to support your absence from the office. Should you decide not to apply quite so early, or maybe you're finding this webinar in a recording months from now, no problem. We will have a final deadline of February 13th, 2026, and at that point, spaces will become available on a rolling basis. So we definitely encourage you, if you know this is the program you want to be considered for, please go ahead and apply at your convenience before September 26th. If you find us later, our very final deadline is February 13th, 2026. Let me stop there. Any questions on that, Kristen, or can we move
Not
on to Jamie?
Yeah, not necessarily on the process and timeline so far, but we did have
Great.
a question that came up, and it was about level of experience. So maybe this
Ah,
goes back to application components, which I'm glad to have. Please continue sending us your questions about the application components.
yeah, these are great.
There's
Yeah.
the question is, if you only have 15 years of
Mhm.
experience, can you still qualify for the program? Will you still be
Yeah.
admitted?
Yeah, so absolutely. There's no, again, hard and fast qualification. Our 20 years of experience does tend to correspond oftentimes to that higher level of leadership. Not always. Sometimes folks are in jobs for 20 plus years, and they're, not really interested in or approaching that high level of leadership. That's really more of the factor that we consider for us. And again, it's a little bit about what do you have to offer? Have you been through enough in your professional experience to be able to commiserate, to be able to match up and understand what other C-level leaders are going through, or you've seen happen to C-level leaders that you can weigh in on based on successes and maybe not so successes for those folks. So 15 years, to be very honest, is probably a bit on the early side for us. That said, if you have reached that high level of leadership in a skyrocketed career up to that point, I do encourage you to consider applying. That said, I would also encourage you to look at the rest of our portfolio if you have 15 years and are just meeting that opportunity where you sort of think a C-level could be in your future, but you'd really like to dive down on your leadership opportunities, your leadership progression. We do have other programs that might suit you better if you decide to apply to our program, and we feel like there may be a better fit for a different program. We can certainly have that conversation, and I'm very happy to meet with anybody over Zoom to talk further about this.
Thank you. There is another question about dates. Are we going to host YGELP in 2027?
Yeah, absolutely, we will. This is a yearly program. As you can see, with it being 8 months and 5 weeks on campus, it does take effort from an entire team of people, as well as our faculty across the university, to put one cohort together. Because it's in person and on campus, the lift for us is enormous. We're so happy to do it, but we can only do it once a year. So, yes, you can rest pretty well assured that we will host this program in 2027 as we have for the last 8 years. So really excited to look forward into the future. I think we have some tentative dates because we do have to plan this out so far in advance. More information to come later next year on 2027.
Thank you. Another question. Can you expand on when the remaining funds are required to be paid after the initial $10,000 deposit?
I'm actually going to turn this over to Jamie. So
I was gonna
I
just
think
say,
we
I'm
can
happy to
move
take.
on and let Jamie handle this one. Jamie's our registrar and associate director of operations, and this is exactly in her wheelhouse. So I'll turn it to Jamie for the remaining slides, and then we can open it up to additional questions.
Yep. So the initial deposit is due 30 days after being accepted into the program, and the balance is due within 30 days of that, or 45 days before the program start date, whichever comes first. So we do take into consideration that you may be applying a little bit later in the cycle, but the program fee is due in full, a minimum of 45 days before the program kicks off. However, if you applied, if we're admitting you in December, it might be due sometime in January. If you need additional time payment plans, we will work things out. We just need to be fully paid before the start date. If you have any further questions about that specifically, feel free to reach out. If not, I will continue. So some things to prepare as you're thinking about applying to YGELP. First is to consider your goals. Why is it that you want to be in this program? How is it going to benefit you, your company, your team? These are all things that you want to have an idea of before you commit. It's a big program to commit to. It's 5 weeks of your time in person. It's a lot to ask of yourself. So you want to make sure that it's something that is right for you. You're going to be taking time away from work. So you need to make sure that your leadership team is on board. Your team that reports to you is on board. We're asking you to step away and also be really committed to the time you're here. So it needs to be something that you've really thought through. Can you step away for this time? You are expected to be in person. You need to be in sessions. So stepping out and being away for days on end during the program is just not something that's going to work well. So we really want to make sure that you've thought through, how is it that I'm going to take time away from work? Also taking time away from home, right? Everyone has personal obligations. If you step away for 5 weeks, will things run? Have you thought through your pet or your family? Again, 5 weeks is a really long time, so we want to make sure you've thought through all of these different pieces. There is travel considerations. So making sure that you've thought through, how are you going to get to and from campus? Have you thought about visas and passports and flights and all the different things that it takes to get to campus? Again, it's going to be 3 modules. So you're going to be traveling in April, in October, and December. So it's 3 times that you have to consider the travel of where you're coming from, flying into. If you have any questions about that, we're happy to answer those questions, but it's just something for you to be thinking about as you're debating whether or not to apply for this program. And then financial. So it is a big commitment. We do not offer scholarships. We do not have discounts. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a $10,000 deposit to hold your seat, and the remaining balance is going to be due within 30 days. Is it something that your company is supporting you with? Is it something you're going to be paying out of pocket? These are all things you want to consider before you apply, making sure that you know where this funding is coming from. It is, again, it's a big commitment, both time-wise and financially. So we want to make sure that you thought these things through. We don't want to discourage you from applying, but these are all realities that we just need you to be prepared for. All right, and some of the next steps. So if you haven't yet, we encourage you to download the YGELP brochure. It has a lot of information in there that's useful. So you can visit our website, click the download button, and you'll receive that. As Joanne mentioned, open the application, take a look through. You'll be able to see the essay questions. I know that somebody had asked that question earlier about what the essays include. They'll be written right out there for you. So take a look, you can prepare those. Once you start the application, there is an application initiation page, and it will just capture your information so that you're able to go back into the application. You do not have to complete it at that first step. So you have time to look through, see what information is available that you're going to need to have available. Save the date. As we mentioned, there are 3 modules. There's an orientation. There are going to be live online check-ins. So making sure that you've looked through those dates and you've considered all the things. Is there a wedding or graduation or any big events, board meetings that might be overlapping? Will these dates work for you? We have those dates set, so you should be able to take a look at your calendar and see if there's any big things that are going to be in the way. Set time to speak to your recommender. So we do ask that as part of the application, you put down someone that is going to complete a letter of recommendation. So just have time to let them know it's coming, what they're going to need to submit. We do remind this person, but have a backup. Sometimes we find that this person just can't give that time at the moment. And it's nice to have somebody in the back of your mind of thinking through who will be available to do this if this first person can't. We have on our website past webinars with alumni, with faculty. We recommend popping into those. They're really helpful. You can see what other people have to say in real time. The comments from our past participants have always been really great. So if you want to pop into any of those, they're easily available on our website. And if you can't find them for whatever reason, just let us know and we'll direct you to those. The website where those webinars are, there's also other additional information. So feel free to take a look at the website as well. Be aware of the upcoming deadlines. As Joanne mentioned, the first priority deadline is on September 26th. It doesn't mean you have to apply by that date, but it will give you the priority to get a decision sooner. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. Joanne and I are both more than willing to help answer any additional questions if we haven't answered them. If you think of something later today or next week or in the future, we will 100% be able to get back to you and encourage you to think through additional questions, and don't hesitate to reach us. And I think that is it. We can actually drop this email into the chat as well, so you can just copy and paste it if it's for ease.
Thank you, Jamie. Well, here we are. We're at our final slide with Q&A for final advice. I'm going to throw it back to you, Joanne.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure you're going to ask if I have any advice, and I have plenty. But I will give you what I think is the most valuable from my perspective. I'll let Jamie chime in, and Kristen would love for you to chime in as well if you have a piece of advice you'd like to give. While we're doing this would be a great time to drop any final questions into either the chat or the Q&A so that we can get those answered for you before we finish up. We're right on time, so I'm really pleased about that. My best advice, as the kids say, don't sleep on asking your recommender for a reference. You will definitely want to carve out some time to explain YGELP, your motivation for the program, and maybe even some highlights of your career to date. So as Jamie mentioned, this person may be all in. And if so, let's just go with that for now. You will want to spend some time with them to make sure that they're fully on board and understand what it is you are asking them for. I don't think this will take a ton of time for them, especially if you're a high performer. The questions we ask about your achievements and accomplishments should come pretty quickly, but it's never a bad idea to, number one, perhaps even provide them with a copy of your resume to remind them of all of your accomplishments, or just to quickly remind them of some highlights over the last couple of years. And again, more importantly, perhaps why this program makes sense for you as you seek to move up into levels of leadership within your organization. Obviously, that's a great opportunity for them to consider you when they're thinking about opportunities for promotion. If this is an ask to assist with financing, you'll want to spend some time to make your case there as well. If there's anything we can do to help there, to give you some sound bites or explain what the payment covers, please let us know. This, again, shouldn't take too long to sit them down, and it shouldn't take them long to complete it, but you definitely won't do yourself any favors by waiting until the last minute. No one wants to be asked for something as important as a recommendation letter at the last minute. By the way, can you get this done tomorrow? Can you get this done in the next few hours? So recommendations are required for us to be able to move forward with your application, so it is pretty important. So I can't stress this enough. This is not the kind of thing you want to leave to the last minute. Jamie, how about you?
I would say operationally, we're here to help. So if there are things when you get into the application that you have questions on, if there's anything along the way, any of the process things, we can answer those for you, even if you've submitted your application, but you have additional questions after. Please do reach out if you have questions about the timeline, deadlines, anything like that. We are definitely able to help you before, during, or after you've submitted your application.
And on my end, I'm going to encourage you to revisit the website, and not just the program page, but we do have some helpful profiles of past participants on our website. I'm going to drop a link into the chat of Enrique, who was in the cohort a couple years ago, and it just provides to you a profile of someone who's been in the program before. So we do have social media posts with featuring past participants that tells you more about their story, their motivations, their goals for the program, with the program. So it is helpful for some prospective participants to learn more about the program through the eyes of past participants.
Great.
We did have a question that came in for you, Joanne, that was to actually go back to one of the curriculum pillars.
Yeah.
That was about the executive toolkit. The question was, does the executive toolkit, I think this question is really, is it a formal toolkit? Does it include frameworks, tools, templates that can be leveraged during and after the program?
Yes and no. Like, we're really not here to prescribe anything necessarily. And of course, a framework would be very dependent on industry, on your company, how many people work with and for you, etc. So I guess not. I think what you'll find instead is this is the opportunity for you to take away what works and sort of leave behind what doesn't. I think the other piece of what I sort of imagine is like putting tools in a toolbox is more about you than it is necessarily frameworks to sort of live by. And what I mean by that is we use so many tools in the program to offer a level of self-awareness about you as a leader, both from your own sort of reflections as well as the reflections of others. And so to me, that's a tool to put in your toolkit to walk away from, knowing that these are strengths that you have and you should continue to use and exploit them as much as you can, but also areas where you might need a little bit of extra work, whether that means working with a coach. Again, we do provide executive coaching one-on-one in the program itself, but do you want to follow up there and take those tools as they were maybe areas for development, and how are you going to continue to work on those? So I think there might be some more formal things, like when we sit down and talk about corporate governance or we talk about board governance, that might be best practices based on the advice of folks who have been in these spaces for a really long time. And so if you want to think of those as tools, there are probably some really good things to take away as best practices. But no, I don't think we're necessarily prescribing any specific frameworks that you should use. Take what works for you, leave behind what doesn't.
Thank you, Joanne. I know Jamie is typing up a response to a question that we did again in the chat. So with that, I think there are no other open questions at this time.
Well, you guys have done a great job of asking terrific questions, letting us provide the answers to those live here. We also have FAQs on our website, so those might come in handy as well as you're looking for the application, through the application, and looking for opportunities there to just make sure you're refining things. But again, we're here to help, so don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Joanne. That's a great
Yeah,
point.
of course, that's what we're here for. And we look forward to future webinars.
And there will be webinars in the future, and you will hear about them. And we will be sending you information in a follow-up email after this webinar with additional resources to learn more about the program, with the email address to contact Joanne directly to set up a time to talk. So you'll be receiving that email in addition to invitations for future webinars.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for your time with us today. I'm going to echo for probably the 15th time of what Joanne and Jamie said, which was, please contact us after this webinar. Please send us your questions. We love helping. We love hearing about your story and seeing if there's a way that Yale can help be a part of your professional development and growth. With that, thank you everyone for this wonderful time together. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Jamie, for your expertise and your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for hosting us, Kristen.
Thank you.
With that, I hope you have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.